very soon. Okay, team. So this is your first puzzle solving session that's going to be led by Charlotte, and I'm going to hand over to her very shortly. But just wanted to set this up with why Craig and I worked to include this as part of your Cheetah Squad, your being in Cheetah Squad. We have a very simple mandate for you guys joining this squad, and we talked about it from the very first moment we started chatting about it, and it was to either double your revenue or double your personal time, or maybe a bit of both over the next 12 months. And you guys made a great start on that over the last month, or last 5 or 6 weeks. And there's two main factors towards you going on this journey. There's kind of the practical business, logical, logistical side. But then there's the mental, psychological, emotional side, which we cannot ignore. And Craig and I know a little bit about that. We know a bit about because of the journey that we've been on, but TMP specialize in that. That's exactly what they do, in helping ambitious health professionals like yourselves get to the next level of mental performance. And we know that if we can both identify like what's going on in your world right now and what's likely to come that's more of a mental, psychological, or emotional barrier, your journey is going to be much smoother. You're going to go further and you're going to go faster. Craig, before we hand to Charlotte, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just that this for me was the not that I've cracked it by any stretch, but was the biggest missing piece for me to be able to consider when it came to seeing who I was and who I wanted to become, and the type of person that I needed to become, or the way that I needed to deal with certain things to allow me to grow the business that I wanted to grow. I didn't realize just how much of a mental challenge growing a bigger business was going to be, and just how much I needed to not like redefine myself, but check in with myself that like I'm doing the right things by me, and that I'm able to zoom out, look at the bigger picture, consider all of the different elements of my life and how that might actually affect. I'm a very kind of like mechanical person, like put this cog in, turn the wheel, and everything will happen. And I think that that's let me down in the past. So from personal experience, I'm excited for you guys to work with Charlotte, to work with TMP, and to be able to experience a slightly different style of conversation today. Be open, be transparent. Like, we're a small group. There's nothing that hopefully there's nothing really that you won't be comfortable sharing here. If you aren't comfortable, that's fine. But I think the more information you can give Charlotte, the easier it will be for her to be able to help you. So yeah, no, I'm excited for you guys. Let's get going.
So as I hand over to Charlotte, 2 final things from me. Number 1, we're going to have 2 of these sessions every 3 months. Okay, so it'll be around every 6 weeks or so. And what we're going to try and get to by the end are some things that you can go away and work on so that you can bring back to our next conversation, which will be, I think we've got it lined up in January actually, for our next one. And then the structure of these sessions is not, it's going to be very open. It's not like a syllabus that we're working through, because it's what's in your head. And Charlotte doesn't yet know what's in your head, so that's where we're going to begin. Charlotte, over to you.
Yeah, hi guys. I'll do a very quick intro because this is really not about me. It's about you guys, but just so you know who you're dealing with. Sort of. So as you can probably hear, I'm French. If it's not that obvious, I'll tell you. I came in the UK about 12 years ago, and I originally actually in France I studied neuroscience. I've got a master's in neuroscience. I was really interested in the brain and how the brain works. Then I realized this isn't quite what I wanted to do, and I started studying business and marketing because essentially you can make more money and pay more the bills with business marketing than with a science degree, in France at least. And then I moved to London, and I started working for BWS, so Beer, Wine and Spirits brands. So like some big brands like Jack Daniels, Chivas, Absolut Vodka, and I worked in marketing for all these big companies. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of high pressure, a lot of drinking, a lot of partying. So work hard, play hard. And I wasn't really happy in there. I was just like developing a lot of like imposter syndrome issues. I was struggling with self-confidence, comparison syndrome, all the wonderful things that come with this sort of like really high pressure roles. And then I went to therapy to deal with some anxiety, depression, and all that. And I came out of it with a completely different outlook on life, on myself, on my thoughts, on control that I had on my life and all that. And I just decided to ditch all of that and to start going on a mission to get everybody in that journey with me. So I started working as a therapist on my own, and then I actually met Kieran. Kieran is the founder of TMP. I met Kieran during our training. We did the same training together, the same therapy training together. And he got back in touch with me a couple of years after that and asked if I wanted to join the team. And so I did. And since then, I've also qualified as a coach, and I have also a qualification in trauma therapy. So it's been really fun since then. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. But like I said, this isn't about me. This is about all of you guys. This session is really just your space. If you've got any sort of things that you are struggling with, mental block, anything that you're not quite making sense of at the moment that is really keeping your mind busy, just share, and I'll help you. I'll do my best to understand your world in the like little small amount of time that we've got together, and to give you as much clarity as I can. That's basically the goal for today. Yeah. So I think that the first thing is maybe just as a question, just to open the floor a little bit. If you could rate from 0 to 10, so drop it in the chat. How connected do you feel to your business at the moment? 0 to 10. With your business / your mission / your vision / whatever makes sense to your purpose. And then write down after that what needs to happen for it to be a 10. What's in the way of it being a 10? What are the blocks, the mental blocks, the obstacles, the things that are just not quite right? Oh, that's some pretty high scores here. That's good. 9, 8, 8, 7. Not bad at all. Leah, what do you mean by more on the business and less in? Sorry, that might be just a language thing.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of that hamster wheel, just delivering the same thing rather than working on it to improve the back end and the systems and that kind of thing.
What do you think is getting in the way of that at the moment?
Time management, possibly.
Okay.
Motivation, maybe.
And that's an interesting one with time management and motivation. So I always say, time management or procrastination is basically an energy or an emotion management issue, right? It's either you're feeling tired, you're not sleeping well enough, you're not exercising well enough, you're eating well enough, or something like that. So there's a problem where in TMP we say that it's either the car or the driver, right? So if it's a car problem, it's an engine problem. It means that you need to just check your energy level, check if everything's fine. And then if that's okay, and you're still finding yourself struggling with time, struggling with management, struggling with all that, then there might be something that you might be afraid of. There might be some emotion that you're trying to get away from. Because really what procrastination is just a freeze response, right? The fight, flight, or freeze response?
Yeah.
The stress response, yeah. So procrastination is nothing but a freeze response. It's a perception of danger and wanting to just stop and not get there because there's something subconsciously that you might be afraid of. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's quite a busy time for us in my personal life, generally. And I think I've spoken to the guys before, because I'm based at home, my time management isn't always the best, because it's just to and from, if it's busy, the house is always full. So yeah, maybe. And my next move is to find a place that's not here. So maybe that's like that.
Are you at home right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So We'll see.
changing your environment is quite key in terms of just even for your energy as well.
Yeah.
Like I know you mean. I do the same thing. Like I work from home most of the time and it can be really draining, and there's always something else you could be doing. Always.
Yeah.
But let me like if that helps, like it's funny because I actually had an experience like that. That came through like a week ago or something. I was writing some I had to write some content for a company that I work with that's basically commissioned me to write some content for them. And I was at home and it was my Wednesday. My Wednesday is my content writing time, right? So I was like, but in the morning I would spend about an hour just doing chores in the house, making sure the house is tidy and doing all that. And then I found myself doing more chores and more chores. And then there's always something you can fix, right? There's always like, oh, there's more, another load of laundry, there's another thing. And then I stopped myself and I was doing this with a constant little feeling of a little bit of anxiety in the background, like a little something in my stomach, you know? And I was like, okay, I stopped. I was like, what's going on right now? This is the best thing you want to do with procrastination. That goes with for all of you guys. Like with procrastination is awareness, right? So in this moment you stop and you're like, okay, what's really happening? Like, what's that feeling that I'm getting? I was like, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling a bit scared. And I'm like, what's that feeling is actually saying to me? Because every feeling is coming from a thought. Our feelings always come from thoughts, right? We can't feel if we don't think. And so the thought was, the first thing that came to me was, I can't do this. And there was a part of me that believed that I hadn't done that content writing for a long time. And there was a part of me that was just like, no, you can't do that. And the moment that thought came through, I was like, well, that's not true. Well, that's just a random thought. That is not true. I've got loads of things in my past that can show that show me that I am able to do that. I've done this before, and there's no reason why I couldn't do this right now. And so the moment that came true to me, that thought just came out of the woodwork, and it kind of took all the power out of it. And then I was just able to just get cracking, and I got the stuff done in that 2 hours.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I really resonate with that, with new tasks or unfamiliar projects. Rather than actually giving myself the time to cognitively process what needs to be done and how capable I am, I'll find myself moving it further and further down the list, and instead doing the dopamine things. Like I'll do the emails first, and then I'll make sure that I get back to this person first. So Leah, I don't know whether you find that at home with personal stuff, or we spoke the other day about the rocks, the pebbles, and the sand. It's like going back to the sand because it's really easy to do that stuff and it's familiar and it's common. And so the thing that's going to get you in that studio, the thing that's going to give you what you want, just keeps getting pushed down to the bottom of the list. And so I think Charlotte's share there is really good around the awareness of that and understanding when you're actually doing that, rather than it just happening and it being another week that goes by where we didn't make A, B, and C happen. I can resonate with that.
I don't know if any of you were. Go ahead. Sorry, Leah.
Yeah, so we met up last week or the week before, and we've all got things we need to do now from that the catch up. But it's like, right, I've still managed to somehow procrastinate and haven't done them. My training, I'm quite strict with, like I put it in my diary and it's non-negotiable, but I need to be a bit better with the business side of things and doing the same. Do you know what I mean? So
what needs to happen for you to be able to do that? What needs to change for you to be able to get that done?
Maybe the environment, possibly. Just going, even if it's going to a cafe and just sitting and making that time happen, I guess.
And I don't know if any of you have been to the masterclass I did last time on time management. I call these the things that you should be doing, are important to your business, but you keep on procrastinating because you're afraid of something. I call it that's the frog, right? So it's not me. I didn't come up with that, by the way. It's come from a book that's called Eat That Frog. And the idea is that if you start by eating the frog, the frog is the least appetizing thing on the menu. If you start with eating the frog, then you can enjoy the rest of the menu after that. You can enjoy the rest of the food. And I also compare this as like battery drainers, right? It feels like it's going to drain you. Just thinking about it drains you. But the thing with this thing is that the moment you do them, they move from battery drainers to battery charger. Have you noticed how empowered and energetic you feel when you get things done that you didn't want to do? You know, like the things that you were really dreading to do, and then you manage to do it anyway. And the feeling that you get after that is literally your body realizing that it survived something you thought it was gonna be dangerous. That's all it is. And so you get a kick of adrenaline, of like really good feel, like hormones, and that makes whatever was originally something you dreaded to do something that suddenly becomes amazing. I have a client like that who just hated, and she was like, I don't want to do any videos. I don't want to show like videos, you know, Instagram videos. I hate it. And I was like, okay, that's your frog. Do it Monday, 9 a.m. every week. That's what you do. And now she absolutely loves it because the kick that she gets out of doing that, she's just like, whatever happens the rest of the week, I won the week already. The
Yeah.
week is like is won because I've done this. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So next step, what's the next step for you?
To make the time to do those things, I think. That my task list and the systems I need to put in place. And possibly making time to go to do them in a different environment. Yeah,
Okay. Good.
thank you.
Definitely worth trying it for a week, Leah, right?
Yeah.
Like make it happen, book something in, go somewhere and test it and let us know. And if it was better, then maybe we've been able to eat the frog. If not, then we can come back and revisit it. But it's an easy thing to test. So
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Nice.
Rob, you said something, time self-management. Do you want to go on about it, or give me some help with that?
Sure. So yeah, I just find it hard getting tasks started in a similar way. So I'm very good at like scheduling and planning, and then when it comes to crunch time, I'm not sure if I'm giving myself too much initially, making it slightly overwhelming, cramming too much into not enough time. But just quite often, you know, I'll use that. I've got a finite amount of time anyway, and that time will shrink and shrink and shrink. But because I'm procrastinating and not getting started, checking emails over and over, like I pick up the phone to do a task, like check something in a diary or look up an old message, and I invariably hit like Instagram or whatever distraction tactic, and it seems to like corrode the time very fast. And then I get frustrated and pissed off at myself for not completing all the things that I set myself out to do. And sometimes that can lead to things getting missed, but often it just means that things are backlogged and have to be done quickly. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I relate to this so much, even at this stage that I am with my like the awareness that I have and all of that. I do that a lot as well. I think one of the big thing is, like you said, and that's true, is the overwhelm, the big list, right? If you've got too much on it, like, so what I tend to, because I get there quite often. One good tip that I've got for you on this one is when you start the day, again, it's just go back to the frog, but if there's only one thing I could do today, what would it be? And just do that. And then, you know, you'll see how the rest of the list happens, because I can pretty much guarantee you, like I could bet anything that if you get that one thing, because obviously it will have to be the thing that is important, right? The important energy thing, that one thing, you'll feel so much better about it. The frustration, whatever you were feeling is going to lift off. And what happens when we stop feeling frustrated, when we stop feeling angry, frustrated, annoyed, whatever you want, we're able to think much clearer, right? Think of your frustration or anger or whatever it is, like dust. It's like dust in your mind, right? You can't see clearly. Every time a thought comes, it's almost like a car just boom, and then lifting up the dust again. I'm so annoyed with myself. I can't do this. I'm this, I'm that. All of these thoughts that we're having when we're getting frustrated because of our procrastination is just, and the dust is lifting again. But then if we give it a moment, the dust just settles, right? And when dust settles, we're able to see things clearly. We're able to see what's the next thing that needs to happen. You can't think your way out of overthinking. So first step, I would say, one thing. If I could only do one thing today, if like imagine that the day is gonna go, everything is gonna go against what you were supposed to do anyway. You only have one thing that you could do, and then do that. And I can tell you something is gonna happen, is that the dust is gonna settle, the frustration is gonna settle, and then from that place, you'll be able to see what next. Because we have got this incredible innate ability for insights. And I'm with you. What's it called? And that paralysis by analysis. I'm gold medal in that. Like I know exactly what this is like. And it's just fear. That's all it is. It's just waiting until you'll be able to jump instead of jumping straight away. When we do that, we forget that we have this innate ability to know deep down what's the next step is going to be, if we give it a time. So do the next thing and then see what comes up. Because from that place, you'll be, like I said, the dust will have settled. You'll be much clearer in your mind. You'll be able to see what needs to be done next. And it might not be any of the things that you had on your list anyway. It might be something much more interesting, much more, that makes much more sense to you in the moment.
Cool, thank you.
No worries. I hope it helps.
Charlotte, I just wanted to jump in here just for everybody's benefit. The really cool thing about hearing this from Charlotte and somebody that's outside of Velocity and works with a variety of different people, and I'm kind of asking you this question as I make this statement, I think, Charlotte, which is, and I wanted to just get in here early, is the understanding that all of you guys and these problems, these things that you're trying to navigate will be the same things that Charlotte speaks to with people that are making £1 million a year, with people that are running huge companies, with people who are at the very start of their journey. Like the themes, Charlotte, if I pass to you now, the themes are the same, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like we're all equal in this. Doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter how much power you've got. I would say it's even more so. The more money you've got, the more power you've got these problems that show up, because then the ego gets in the way. And as soon as the ego gets in the way, that's where all of this contaminated thinking starts happening. That's where we are taken out of the reality of what is actually going on, the things that we can actually deal with, because there's nothing we can't deal with. You can deal with everything. You're built in for real life to be able to solve problems. But the only thing that gets in the way of solving problems is our thoughts, is what we make of them, is what we are suddenly scared of them for some reason. It's our unconscious thinking that somehow we're going to die because we're afraid of something. So yes, you are evidence, and we see it very much. We've got this masterclass with TMP where we every Thursday, and we've got people from like that earn £1,000 a month to people who earn like £20,000 a month that are just coming at the same issues and talk about the same things. Ben, to get to 10, establish boundaries between working on the business, in the business, incoming messages, etc. Do you want to tell me a bit more about that, Ben?
Yeah, to kind of be more specific, it is like the incoming messages part, and say like if I'm in here working on my business and I've blocked that time to work on the business and it's fine, but then I see like I know that message will be going off on my phone, and then it's just that thought of like, this literally went off right there. Go away. But like it's literally thought of like, if I don't get back to this person until I come to my block time to get back to messages, then it's like do they expect a quick response from me? And then if they have that, it thinks that how they value me is a lot lower, and it comes from clients and that. So but because I've got that fear, I'm responding to messages whilst I'm working on my business, which means I'm going from one task to another, and I'm going to try and get back into this. I just can't, and I'm not
So
getting it.
what's the, yeah, I get that. So what's the fear?
I think it's probably just because people have the expectation that I can just get back to them just like that, and probably I've been doing that too much, and
But what's the fear?
that they think less of me, probably.
Okay. And how do you know that's true?
Because I know how sometimes how I feel as well when if I send someone a message, then I would, not always, but sometimes I would expect a response from them quickly as well.
Mm. That's really interesting. So you see, you're taking your way of thinking and you're applying to other people's way of thinking. And this is a mistake that we tend to do all the time, right? We tend to think that we're comparing ourselves to others by imagining that we're basically the same person, that they're going to think because we think about it a certain way, they're going to think the same way. And what's more, if you didn't judge yourself, if you could act without judgment of yourself, would you still be worried about what people would say? Or what people would think?
Not too sure actually. Don't know. I feel like sometimes
Judgment?
say that
Go
again.
ahead.
No, I
Go ahead.
don't know. Like I think the thing for me is like because some people will want to, they'll have maybe not an urgent question, but a question that would be really good to get back to quickly. And even when I do have gets to the point where even when I do have my phone on do not disturb and it's waiting, I'm much better at that now. I still actually want to override the do not disturb to just to see what's going on, and I just need to block that out.
What's the so if you didn't do that, you're afraid of what they would think of you. Is that what you're saying? What do you think they would think of you?
That they don't care, that I don't care about their, you know, I don't see it as a priority to get back in touch with them, that I'm prioritizing working on my business rather than helping them out.
Why is it like that for you?
It's a good question, Charlotte. I don't know. I don't know, honestly. It's probably just the way, it might just be the way that I've been treated as well. Maybe that I've been in the fortunate position that I've been treated well as I've grown my business and I've developed as a person. So again, it might come back to the fact that I'm comparing my circumstances to others, and
Maybe. What would happen if you could just let that thought go?
oh, it'd be amazing. It would mean that the time that what I block in my calendar, I would actually be able to religiously stick to it. And
Right.
I'm going into some task now and I'm thinking like, okay, I've got on the business work now, I've specifically that what I need to do. But sometimes I go into it and I've blocked off like maybe like an hour and a half to do it. And I'm like, it sometimes gets to the point like, what if load of messages come in and I don't get that full hour and a half of productivity? So it would just free my mind and just kind of, even just to know I can go into each task with full clarity and do as much as best as I can.
Absolutely. Now, the difference between that version of you and the version of you that is completely preoccupied by the messages is not the messages, is what you make of it in your head. Right? It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Again, think of the car. The car that goes through. It's like a thought passing through your mind. They're gonna think I'm this. They're gonna think I'm that. They're gonna all of these things, and then the dust comes into your head, and then clouds everything, and then you can't work, and then you can't see things clearly. Now, it's not about not having these thoughts, right? We all have these thoughts. It's okay. I've got an imposter syndrome thought that passed through my mind. I had it just before this call. I was like, oh my God, how am I to just talk to these people? You know, that's okay. It's we all have them, and there's nothing you can do about them. The mind creates constantly. I think it's something I saw this ratio. It says that 50,000 thoughts go through our head every day. 50,000, 70% of which are negative. Now, if a car goes by with a thought and the dust just goes, and you start feeling scared, you start feeling frustrated, whatever. But then you just wait for a second. You just wait for it to settle. You don't. Because what we do when we just entertain those thoughts, it's as if we just stop the car, we get into the car, and we start going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and get more dust out. And all that. That's what we do essentially with our thoughts. We take them, we believe them, we go in and drive the hell out of them. We make them real. And in these moments, I always say it's like we are taken out of reality. We're not in the real world anymore. We're in what I call La La Land. We're in a different world. And in that world, that thought is real. In that world, your clients are judging you. And that's so true to you. Because thoughts can be like that. They can make us feel like it's real. But it's not real. It's all happening in there. It has nothing to do. And the simple fact is, the reason why you know that this isn't your circumstances that are making you feel that way, but it's really just your thought, is that another person would be in exactly the same situation as you, wouldn't necessarily be bothered by the messages or anything like that, right? So it is really just about what you make of it in your head. So if you could just sit with the thought, not ignoring it, just sit with it and be like, okay, I don't have to drive the car. I don't have to go back and forth with the car. I can just let the car drive by, feel a bit frustrated, feel a bit anxious, feel a bit whatever I need to feel right now, and get back to it. Because that's the best way of just get on with real life, really, reality. We're not built in for La La Land. We're built in for real life. We have the ability to deal with everything that comes our way, with all problems that come our way, with our instincts, with our gut feel, with our intellect, with all of that. And it's just when we start driving these cars around that it's just getting very confusing. What's coming to your mind when I say this?
No, I think it's just, I think something I need to do better is kind of have the awareness that I'm having these thoughts and not pounce and take action with these thoughts. It's more of, right, okay, I'm having these thoughts. I've blocked it in my calendar to get back to mess. I'll come back to it later. Just trust myself a little bit more, trusting what I've got laid out. And I think that's the main thing I need to do.
Absolutely. And when we stop listening to our thoughts, we'll just listen to our gut instead, and things go much smoother when we go into with our gut feel and what we know is true in the moment, right? Because you always do know, really. When you take out the fear, when you think, what would I do if I could act without fear right now? That's a very powerful question, by the way. I always ask myself again and again, like, if there's something that is like I feel a bit unsure or I'm struggling or I don't see clearly, like I always ask myself, what would I do right now if I could act without fear? And the answer comes straight away. Like your gut knows immediately. And then you can just like, okay, well, let's just let go of the fear then. It doesn't serve me.
I'd just say one again, Ben, same thing I said to Leah, like there's some really clear things that you could action on the back of that. And I would just advise that you test it. Like you don't commit to it long term and say, this is me now for the rest of my days. Just test it for a week and see how you feel. I love that share as well, Charlotte, about if you could just remove fear. That really hit me right in the feels. So I think that's gonna be a great question to ask myself many times in many situations.
Really good question. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Ben.
Charlotte.
Warren, getting time management right around working on the business. Anything else? Did anything shared helped, or do you need more clarity on something here, Warren?
I'm a good mix of the three you've already spoken of. Mine's probably procrastination is my biggest problem. Like for me, answering messages is just an easy go-to because like there's a message, I'll just pick that up because I don't really want to do. Well, it's not even that I don't want to do it. It's just that putting things off. So I've got my
Yes.
long list of things I know I need to do, and then
Yeah.
they just get shifted down, and I'll literally do anything over those 1 or 2 tasks that should be
Yeah.
at the forefront.
And what do you think is getting in the way of you getting the stuff that needs to be done?
Fear, I suppose, but like there's the weird things like a fear of the unknown or a fear of failing, I suppose. So
Yeah.
just putting something out that, so I suppose I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So it's putting something out that might not be the best, and then I'll just procrastinate on it
Yeah.
instead of
And
testing it.
this is an incredible ironic thing, isn't it? Like, you want to make something perfect, so you just wait until the last minute, and then you just end up not doing it. So it's never gonna you're never gonna know whether it's gonna be perfect or not, because you just end up not doing it in the end.
And I find it frustrating because I know I'm doing it, but then struggle to snap out of that kind of mindset. And then one day goes past, 2 days, and it's just still on the back burner, eating away at you that you could have just started it 3 days ago.
What is there a particular thing in mind that you are struggling doing, like a particular task?
Well, I wouldn't say one particular thing. It's just I'll get to a point in like on the business or like something that needs attention, i.e., making a video or updating a system, or it could be a small thing or a big thing. Like right now, I'm shifting how I run the business, and there's a few key things I should have in place, and I'll just knock it down another day. So I'll dedicate 3 hours. Well, like today, I've got 2 hours to do something, and I'll do everything other than what I'm setting out to do. The same, like clean the house or tidy the kitchen, whatever. Doesn't even have to be work related.
Yeah. So challenge the thought. Challenge the thought. Again, same thing. It's just a thought. It's not real. You're just in that moment. You're just in la la land. Like really, that's all it is. You're in that world where there's a part of you that just doesn't believe that you can do this, or believes that you're afraid of failure or something. But really, another really good question is so simply as that: is this true? Just bring the thought out. What is it? I can't do this, or I'm not good enough for this, or I'm gonna fail. And then just challenge it. Is this true? Do I know this to be true? So it really isn't. That takes the power away from the thought, right? What you'll find is that it'll probably be much easier then to get back on it the moment, because the thing with fear is that, well, or about the anxieties that you feel in these moments where you're just pushing things away, is that you don't really know what it is that you're afraid of. You just know you're afraid of something, right? And like I said earlier to Leah, the fight, flight, or freeze response kicks in when there's a partner unconscious thinks that we are facing danger, and I mean physical danger, that you might actually die. That's just an evolutionary thing. That's just the way that we survive, right? So it's just a glitch in the system. It's just a information being translated like wrongly. That's all it is, right? It's just your unconscious being like, you might die, so we're just going to stay away from that, right? Literally. And so most of the time, if you just like bring it up and like, what is it that I'm really afraid of? And then you take it out and you're like, okay, just a thought, not real, no need to be afraid of that. Move on to the next one. I would invite all of you guys, when this happens to you, think the thought, feel the feeling, move on. It's not by putting it away, ignoring it, trying not to, all of that. I always compare this to, I don't know if any of you has children here, but I've got a 3-year-old, and I really picture this as this. So like, it's like a child, right? If a child is trying to voice their concerns or is trying to say something and you ignore them, are they likely to go away, or are they likely to shout louder? For all of those who've got children, they're much more likely to shout louder and to start screaming. It's the same thing with our thoughts and our feelings. Same thing. If you ignore the feelings, if you ignore the thoughts, it's not going to go anywhere. It's still there. It's going to stay stuck. So feel it. Feel anxious. Feel frustrated. Feel annoyed. Whatever it is. Get the thought out of put some light, shed some light on the thought. I guarantee you, It's gonna put you in a much better position to start getting to do the task straight away. Hope this helps. Give it a go, and yeah, I hope it helps. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, Liam, improving time management. There's a lot of time management, and guys, I know this is it's a big one for everyone. Improving time management, specific things in the morning. Liam, do you want to expand a bit on that one, or did you have, or unless you answered all your questions, or
No, it's very similar to what the rest of the guys have said, except mine's more just to do with getting up when I should get up. Like my perfect week is perfect as it should be, but it's if I'm supposed to get up at 6 to be ready by 7, if I know that I don't start with a client till 8, I'll stay in bed till about just before 7, and then I'll spend the first on the business hour getting ready, and then the whole morning just each thing gets pushed further back. And then my lunch hour comes, and then I spend about half hour of my time doing what I should have done in the morning. So then by the afternoon, my perfect week is followed, but the morning is where I struggle.
well, yeah, but okay, so that's when we go into more the energy management sort of side of procrastination, right? We are not meant as animal, as human being, to do 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, non-stop. That is just not the way that the brain works. That's not the way that we work. We've got moments, and it's very different for everybody. We've got moments where your brain is at its best capacity for learning. You've got peak of for learning, for working, for whatever you want. You've got peak to productivity, right? And it's roughly the same, but you'll find some like differences from one person to another. So if you think of when is for you, you've got to figure out where your peak performance hours are, right? So what is the time of the day where you feel you have the most energy? Like if I were to say to you, you need to write an essay, for instance, or you need to have a conversation with a client or something, what would be the best time of the day for you?
Probably from 11 till 3.
Right. So that's your peak performance hours. Morning is not your thing. That's okay. Just work around that. Because by trying to force yourself to do certain things that take a lot of energy for you at that early in the morning, all you do is you set yourself up for failure. That makes you feel more frustrated with yourself, and that creates more procrastination, and then you go into that terrible sort of like vicious circle. So how could you try to work around that and make sure that if you know that your peak performance hours is 11 a.m. to that 3 p.m., whatever is what we call the frog or the battery drainer, whatever, all the things that require the most energy, do them there. And then allow yourself some downtime. Very important thing as well. I haven't mentioned that yet, but actually scheduling downtime into your day, not just half scrolling on Instagram, half working, where you don't do either of them right. Actually just say, okay, for like an hour, 2 hours, whatever. I'll give myself 2.5 hours for lunch. If I can allow it, that's what I'm giving myself, because that's what I just need it. I know for the rest of the day, I'm going to be super productive if I'm able to do that. And I realize actually, if I don't do that, I end up doing it anyway by taking half an hour here, 10 minutes there, but that never feels as good, because it feels almost like I feel like I'm procrastinating. I feel like I'm not doing anything right. So I prefer to give myself a big block in the middle of the day to just chill, right? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's just for the 900th time a reschedule of the perfect week, except add in this bit in now. I just think the biggest challenge is scheduling it so my productive time is the hours that I've just said to you, but then is also trying to fit everything I've got to do in the day as well. So it's probably just thinking about where things can go. And rather than shortening my working day, maybe just putting in the easier things. Like I find like client support hours the easiest hours. So putting them closer to the start of the day and then
Exactly.
on the business hours towards the later of the day.
Exactly. And just that's the caveat to what I said earlier. I said start with the frog. I didn't actually, it was, I misspoke. I didn't mean start with the frog. And because a lot of people have most energy at the beginning of the day, which is why I said that. But it's actually do the frog during your performance hours. Use the one that you don't have not energy for stuff that just do not require a lot of brain power, a lot of energy. Just work with your biology, really. So have a go, same thing like Craig is saying, just give it a go maybe for like a week or so and see what changes for you.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam.
An interesting point in the chat, Rob, that you've highlighted that hit me as well is, we always talk about you guys having a minimum of 10 hours per week to dedicate to working on the business. We want to give you a number so that you can get something started. But if we think about that and we break that down a little bit more on the back of today's conversation, if your 10 hours, Liam, is at a time where half of it is in bed and the other hour is you getting ready for a client, what are we actually going to achieve versus you maybe having 5 or 6 hours where you are absolutely on your peak? So I think it's a balance between, yes, we need enough time, but we've also got to ask ourselves, how productive are we going to be with that time? And if that means that you need to do your 900th iteration of your schedule and your week, then let's get to 1,000 if we need to before we crack it. But once you find it and you hit that sweet spot, it's that productivity that's going to be the most important thing to give you the end result that you're looking for. So it's a really important dynamic to add to just finding time. It's, what can you do with that time based on your, the way that you work and everything that Charlotte covered there. Really important for us all to consider that.
Rob, I see that you've put quite a few other stuff, but I'm just conscious. I'll circle back to you. I'm just conscious we haven't spoken with Simon yet.
So I got Simon a little bit further down. I got Simon to rate. He's given it a 3, and then he's commented just below on kind of what feels he's stopping. If you can see that there.
Not sure I don't feel the business is not where I want to be, so I work on it, but then I sacrifice balance and struggle to practice what I preach. So then I feel force in coaching. Okay. Yeah. So do you want to expand a little bit on that, Simon? I've got some thoughts on it. I just would love to hear your view first.
Yes, first, sorry I couldn't make the first half. Ironically, I think time management's a big thing, but I had to force a lot of people in this morning. Yeah, I think for me more than anything, it is changing. I probably would have put a 0 a couple of weeks back.
Okay. That's good. That's improvement.
Yeah, I think it's the issue I think I've got is I get to a point where I'm just working and I can get really on the business and get really effective. But then I'm all or nothing on one thing. I can't have a balance very easily. And personal life situations at the moment are trumping things at times, despite multiple conversations and people in my environment to try and put barriers in place so that I can be the most effective. One, for my personality type of someone who's all in on something when I'm on that, but also like I'm trying not to put barriers in. I'm trying to put barriers in place so I'm not overwhelmed, essentially, which is I think the heaviest thing. Because for things at me, I haven't been able to like train for something for a long while because I've just not had any motivation. But the real fact is I've not had the opportunity to train, if I'm honest, because everything else will trump it, and things like that. So that's where like my balance comes. So in terms of, because I asked Craig, like I don't know whether you mean connected positively or negatively, because like I want to be connected to my business in the sense of it runs, but I also want that barrier that my personal life isn't affected. Which I appreciate there'll always be that kind of, it's my business, so personal life will be involved somewhat, but there isn't a rule to protect, I guess, my time and my personal priorities outside of business. So yeah, I think like for me, that's why some days I could be like, yeah, let's just get on with it because there's an end goal in my mind, and I think that's why it's improved because I have got a lot stricter with and clearer with what I'm doing as an end goal. But equally, pushing through, it's been a bit difficult to actually enforce boundaries and being like when I'm on the business in the business and all that stuff. It's been quite difficult.
Yeah, good outcome for you.
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, I got really bad internet.
Sorry, what would be a good outcome for you? What do you want? What is the goal for you? What would needs to happen for you to feel more connected in a positive way, more authentic, more in line with your business?
I need to hit a certain financial value of what I'm paying myself, which is the kind of focus right now is just hitting a next 7K month, and then being strict on when I'm available, essentially, which I have said I've improved, but it's the main issue I have is my do on the business work. People, I talked with Craig and Dave about this last few weeks. Like people will chuck other things in the way when I'm trying to do focus stuff. So things like my wife will often put tasks in for me because she enjoys the fact that I'm self-employed and she sees that as I have flexible working, when actually there is a flexibility to it, but if it's overly flexible, then I actually sacrifice getting the job done, and then I come home and I haven't earned enough money to pay for bills and stuff. Then she's upset with me because she doesn't understand what self-employed work is. She's never done that, so that puts a lot of pressure in that situation. And then, like I said, I haven't picked a goal to train for because I've simply just not wanted to have that side of my life because it's another thing that will just fail because I can't. I'll take on too much. If that makes sense.
You have a lot on your plate. You have a lot.
Yeah, we have. I have got I have got a newborn at home. I've got a 3-month-old at home. So that's but that's a temporary thing. So I'm very much in my mind that is a temporary thing. So I'm okay with that because that bit I do enjoy, obviously, which is a good thing. But from that, it's it's a difficult thing because my wife has needed a lot of support from me, but herself she's not great at receiving help. So it's usually when it's at end of a tether, she finally gives in rather than trying to talk to me earlier. Can you support me in this area? Can you support me in this area? So that's why sometimes I could be on the business doing something major project, and then suddenly I get a phone call and I've got to run off or then rearrange a client last minute and things like that. So it's been that's where I kind of feel like I got So it's just one of those things.
You've got a lot on your plate at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at this point, do you remember what you do?
Yeah, to a point. I mean, I got into the industry because I couldn't find a decent coach. Well, I mean, I was the typical obese guy growing up, and I've always struggled with weight and things like that, and health. And I engaged a lot of coaches as I went into my early 20s. And out of frustration of shit coaches, I ended up training myself just to learn how to look after myself. Basically, I had a potential pro rugby career, got destroyed from my lack of health, essentially, because at the time things like academies just didn't really exist. So I wasn't really looked after. And then my personality is, well, if no one will help me, I'll go and do it myself and get on with things, which is what I've done all my life. So that's kind of how I fell into coaching. So I was coaching rugby anyway, and I enjoyed it. I used to work in film and TV beforehand. That was my original degree and stuff. So I had quite a nice little business in that. And this job allowed me to stay at home to be with my wife, because I was traveling the world a little bit. So I had some really cool kind of situations, but it wasn't happy, and I enjoyed this to a point. But it was always about having the facility. The way I sold it to my wife was I would want flexibility, because when we had a family, I would be able to go to things like sports days and the Christmas plays that we all want to watch in the evening. I didn't have to worry. I don't have to say no, I'm traveling for work or something, because I had to pay the bills. So the goal was always to get to a point that essentially work part-time for a few years while they're in their younger years until they went to full-time school. Just paying
So
enough to survive.
Is it still the plan? Is it still what you were planning on doing then?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, my goal for the end of the year is to be debt-free, pay off the debt that I did to get the business going. And essentially by August is kind of the deadline. I want to be able to go down to 30 hours a week, which I'm about 60 at the moment. I've gone back up to 20 hours. I've got down to about 45, but what's required now is an extra 20 hours. And yeah, essentially that was kind of my goal in that front. But at times I'm not allowed. I have to sacrifice some stuff now and work a bit more from trying to, but life doesn't always allow that. And then I'm managing a business that's always on the borderline essentially at the moment. So we just need to,
Yeah, and I think it's, you're still on the way to get to that goal of yours. That's the thing you've got to remember as well. Like, life is throwing a ton of shit at you right now, and there's a lot of challenges and some good ones as well. You've got a little one to take care of and stuff like that. And it's not exactly the road that you were expecting it to be, and it's not exactly as straightforward as you had in mind. It never is, right? But the one thing that you can always, always, always rely on, and the one thing that you can be sure of, is your capacity to deal with this. Because if you look back at every challenge, everything that's been going on in your life, everything that you've survived, every single one of them.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that is true. And we tend to not look that way. We tend to look into the future to like a glimmery, shimmery version of ourselves, something that we thought we were going to be, or I should have been then, but I should be there by now. I should have done this by now. These things that are complete, again, La La Land stuff, fantasy stuff that do not exist, that are just theories. They're not actual real. What we don't tend to do is to look back at how far we've come, how much we've already achieved, how much we've overcome. I'll tell you a story that I thought was really interesting. I read this that article about this research that they've done on Olympic gold winners, right? And they looked at these people who are like all retired, like quite young, right? They retired in their late 20s or something. And they realized that it was really interesting because they were polarized into two groups, and pretty extreme, and nothing really in between. One group would end up, after they retire from their Olympic career, having an amazing life, helping others, like other young athletes, doing some charity work, like doing loads of stuff, incredible stuff. And the other group would go straight down the drain, alcoholism, drugs, suicidal attempt. So they looked a bit closer at what was the difference. And then they realized that the group that wasn't doing so well was into that, hamster wheel. I'll be happy when, chasing this sort of vision of themselves, there's that well-being, that I'm enough thinking or feeling somewhere into their future. They didn't really know where it was. And it started when they were really young. So they started when they were young, and like, oh, I'll be good enough when I win my school's championship or whatever, and then they win, and then they feel super good about themselves for like 5 seconds, and then the feeling goes away, and they're like, oh, that wasn't that must be if I go national, and then they go national, international, blah blah blah, and they go to the top of the top, which is basically Olympic. And then it's devastating for these people because they get there and they're still looking for that feeling of enough, of being safe, of being good, of being well, of being all of these things. But it's not in a gold medal. It never is. It's always going to come from within. So they get that, and then the whole world collapses. And so of course they go down the drain, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible for them. The difference between that and the other group, and this is where it's interesting because you can talk about, there's a lot of talk about motivation versus being content, right? But you've got to be pretty fucking motivated to win a gold medal at the Olympics. But these people, they already knew that they were good enough. They already knew that they were worthy, and then they were safe, and then all of that. They knew that whatever successes and challenges that they were going to encounter was never going to be a reflection of who they are as a person. They had some sort of distance with them. And more importantly, and this is where it relates back to what I was telling you earlier, when looking for their achievements, this is the biggest difference between that group and the other group. When looking for the achievements, they were not looking into the future to a potential vision of themselves that they made up in their mind, that they should have been there by now. It's all that. They were looking at their past, their achievements. They were looking at how far they've come, at everything that they've already overcome, no matter the circumstances, no matter how difficult life can be sometimes, no matter the newborns and all of these things that can be really difficult. You're still here, you're still standing, you're still doing it. It's difficult, but you're there, right? And you're so much further along now than you were a month ago. As you said, it was 0 nights to 3. It might be a 6 later the next time I speak to you, right? It might not be, but the important bit is whatever happens, the one thing that you know is you've got the ability to deal with it. You always do.
Yeah. I mean, I tell myself is it's a little phrase I got taught ages ago, is you have a 100% win record of all the challenges you've faced in life. It's like if you're still alive, you have a 100% win record. And I quite like that one in my head because it's like, yeah, actually, and like I said, at the moment, I'm very cautious about what I'm saying because it's very situational. That I have this lovely bundle of joy at home that is causing a lot of complications and issues, but it's nothing that I can control or baby can control, my wife can control. It's just one of those things where I think the major pressure comes from financial, because more than anything, in about 3 months' time, my wife's maternity pay runs out, so I will be the sole breadwinner, and I haven't been that since I was 19. And then my wife has very much been the main breadwinner because I've grown this. So that's why we're at, I think, that stress point, because it is a do or die attitude. But one thing I am aware of is I'll never go bankrupt. Like I've got to that point now. Like I can scale, which I'm going to. But if COVID hits again or something, I know that I won't go bankrupt. I just will just things will just change. It'll be difficult decisions, but things will just change, and I'll be all right. It's just ambition at the moment is causing the stress, I guess.
Exactly. But this exactly what you said. That's wonderful what you said, because that's exactly true. You know, at the deep down, you will never let anything bad happen to your family. You will never let things go so bad. So you've got that safety. You know you've got it. You know that whatever happens, you are able to deal with it. And the point in thinking in 3 months from now, the thing that we forget when we keep on imagining what it will be like and what could happen and the should and the could and all of that, the one thing we forget about is that your ability to deal with this in 3 months will be different from your ability to deal with this now. It will be. You won't be the same person. You're not the same person now that you were at the beginning of this call. Like your ability for insight, your ability for understanding, the things that might pop up in your mind, the solution that might come to you, they will be completely different in 3 months from now. So trying to imagine what it would be like and try to catastrophize it, do not do anything but creating stress in the present moment and not allowing you to actually see things the way that they are right now. to deal with what's going on right here, right now. But it's wonderful that you already have some sort of connection with that feeling of safety, because that's very important, and it's true. You are safe. You actually are. It's just what's going on in your mind and making you believe that you're not.
Thank you.
Perhaps.
Amazing. Charlotte, thank you so much. Obviously we had scheduled an hour, which is why a few people have drifted away. We want to
No
be
worries.
respectful of your time as well. Team, is there any other, I hope you don't mind me just doing a quick shout out, just if there's any more bits and bobs for people to
No,
cover.
of
Are you okay?
course.
Was there anything else that's popped up over the last half an hour from anybody else? It's been great in the chat. Everybody has put in what their kind of experiment that they're going to be running for the next week is going to be. The only person, obviously, because you've only just finished chatting, the only person left to hear from would be you, Simon. So I'd just love to know what you might be able to take away from that as an action. It doesn't have to be a practical thing. It could very much be a thinking process. But what would be the thing that we can just test over the next week or so on the back of that chat?
I think it's a sort of ongoing thing that I've been working on the last few weeks anyway. Is I'm working heavily with my wife about building barriers. I don't know if it's on my little 5-day challenge I did. She actually did it, and she got a lot out of it. Ironically, she was really surprised how much she got out of it. And she's like, I didn't know you were coaching these kind of things. And she's like, where am I going to get my kind of I talk about self-time as like their mental health and things. She's like, well, when have you approached me? So I think this kind of weekend, she's doing her own perfect week, and we're sort of, I encourage talking quite a lot between us to try and open up things, because that's something she's difficult with, but I find a lot easier than her, and yet vice versa stuff. So yeah, I think more than anything, we're experimenting about having the plan moving forward. I think just being a bit more clearer, because there's a lot of things I do well, but it's just, yeah, I think it's just getting that set. So now Litlands should start developing a bit more of a pattern herself and things like that. We can move on from a difficult first 3 months.
Nice.
Good luck with that, Simon.
Sounds good, bud. Yeah, remember, it's creating those boundaries is definitely collaborative between you and your partner, your loved ones, and business partners, anybody else. It's definitely a collaborative experience. So it's good that you're sharing that. My wife is very much the person that gives the green tick to my plan, because it needs to work for all of us. If it doesn't, then it's a headache. So yeah, it needs to work, and it's never going to be. The irony of the perfect week drill that we've created is never going to be perfect. It's a terrible title, but it's a place that we're trying to aspire towards. But once a month is when we suggest that you go and review it, because life changes, things change, and in the situation that you're in, things are going to change a lot more frequently than they do for me, or probably anybody else right now. I know, Warren, you've got young ones. When they get a little older, it gets a little easier for sure. But I mean, I had my son sat here this morning because he's off school whilst I was making a sales call, and that was fun. So there's always going to be challenges, but that's the balance, right? Charlotte, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Team, was that useful?
Good.
Nice.
Nice.
Amazing. Cool. All right. Thank you,
Bye,
Charlotte.
everyone. See you later. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Charlotte. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.